Welcome to Thoughtspeak, a podcast dedicated to the discussion of K. Applegate's 1996 book series, Animorphs. My name is Coleman.
And my name's Mitchell. What's going on, folks? We are back in action and ready for another Thoughtspeak, and this time we are bringing you Book 39, The Hidden. Is it a hidden gem in the canon of the series? We will find out as we review and dive into this treat tonight. Huh?
I'll tell you this, we're not going to get that far in with our actual thoughts on the book being that hidden. It's going to come out.
Is that so? Well, yeah, that may be the case for both of us. I don't know. One thing I can say is that this is a book that I never read in the continuity of the series when I was originally reading the book. Had you read this one before?
No, I always was so confused hearing the fan base talk about the Buffahuman. I always thought that when they were referring to the Buffahuman, they were talking about a book after this. That is when Rachel gets superpowers by Krayak, The Return of David. And I thought they were calling her all buff and muscly the Buffahuman.
Oh,
I didn't know they were talking about this.
That's a little weird. No, I'd also heard of a Buffahuman, and I never really delved into what that meant. I just remember that I picked it up and read the back of it, when I was looking at it in the bookstores, and just from memory, I knew that Cassie bucks tended to not be very important to the overall continuity of the series. And then I saw the mention the Helmicron ship, and having known that I skipped the previous the introduction of the Helmicrons, I was like, well, I guess I'll skip this one too.
Well, see, that was confusing to me, because I thought this was the other Helmicron book. But we've only read one book with the Helmicrons. Is that right?
Yes.
Okay.
But they've used their technology and referenced them several times.
But as far as I know, there's at least two Helmicron books. Because there's another Helmicron book where the...
Yeah, there's one more we have to get to still.
Wow, I can't believe there's so many books that I know exist that are in these last 10. I can't believe they're all fitting into these 10 because I thought more was going on. Because 52 to 47 or something is the actual end of the series. So we only have like 6 books to get through all these ones that I remember, but, had never read.
Yeah, absolutely. There's still a few that I also haven't read, and it's going to be a wild ride counting down here. So
I'll tell you real quick. I'll tell you this: the one I'm looking forward to the most, other than the ones I remember really well, like The Return of David and The Familiar, which I think is Jake going into the future. The one I'm looking forward to the most, which I never read, even though I read the end of the series, I never read the one where Cassie betrays the Animorphs and gives up the morphing cube.
Oh, wow.
I had never read
major spoilers. Jeez,
Oh, yeah.
We need spoiler tags up in this podcast somehow.
No. Most of the people listening to this have already read the end of the series.
That's probably very true, but still.
But I never read that book, and it's like, I went through the whole time rereading the end of the series over and over and not knowing that book, which was infuriating to me because I could never find it.
Oh, well, good news for you, Coleman, and good news for you listeners, because you're going to read that book, my friend, and you're going to tell everybody about it, because we're going to continue this for a long time, and I'd like to point out that that's made possible by our lovely supporters over on Patreon. Boy, we love these people.
Amazing segue.
I know, I've been trying to work it in for the last couple of minutes, but you keep cutting me off, and here it is. These people we got to thank because, geez, we love them. This is Ben Freeman, Noah Troutman, Mr. Jeremy, thank y'all, Jennifer Baker, James Miola, a Kendra, a Kevin Kosklasky, Graith, a Tony Pazak, a Spencer, David C., Kelly Brown, thank you all very so much. Daniel Martinoli, Nita Labrada, Gaffaro, Michael Blemick, Tim Aheen, Soren Joyce, Steve Adams. Give it up, folks, people. Thank all these people, because this Patreon is the lifeblood that's keeping this thing going. And
you sound like you're announcing the NBA Finals lineup for starters in the game. I'm
just trying to keep it interesting, and I'm trying to keep it flowing and moving, because we got to thank these people because we love them, and we want y'all to join our lovely army It's growing every day, folks. We just got our most recent, well, I don't want to say the dollar amount, or maybe I should. I don't know. They did a good thing here with their $100 pledge. That's one of our highest tiers, if not our highest. I'm not sure. The Patreon, just join it and you'll see.
And we don't tell things like that to brag, but people don't understand, like, doing this podcast, this super niche podcast about the Animorphs book series, it costs us money. Like, it gets expensive to, run our website and have it to the level of professionalism that we want, and to host our servers and, do all that. Like, that costs a decent amount of chunk of change when it all adds up. So, we super appreciate our Patreon subscribers. I don't want to say they're better than other people, but they kind of are.
Totally. And you know what? We've spent a little too much time talking about them, to be frank with you. Well,
I do want to, real quick, thank someone who has not, as far as I know, has not given us any money. This is rare for us. But I want to thank someone real quick. Josh Blount. He's someone who sends us fairly regular Facebook messages and emails. And it's different than any other fan that we have, in the sense that he's, we have these spans of time where we don't record. We have life events, especially this year specifically. I've had some major life events that have been derailing the podcast completely. But Josh Blount, he'll email something like, "Hey, hope all is well. Just letting you know I'm checking in weekly to see if the new episode is up yet. Hope everything is going great for you and your families. Looking forward to you two grinding through the rest of these books. Thanks for all the work up until now." Like, what a nice email. Like, that makes me want to sit down and record, and I appreciate it.
Oh, absolutely. We have a lot of good conversations with Facebook fans, and even on the Patreon, I talk to people on there. It's a good community. It's a good time. Come join us. Come join our army. And one thing you will not be, folks, is hidden. Huh? I don't think way, huh?
Less good.
So this is book 39, dude. We've read over 39 of these effers. And
oh, yeah.
And I can safely say, before we read the back of the book, wait, you want to talk about the front, or should I read the back?
Yeah, I want to talk about the front. But first off, this is book 39, but we have over 55 episodes, so we've read quite a few books and gotten into other random topics that, this is a lot at this point. It's getting up there.
Oh, sure, and we're not even, half of the way done, really.
I mean, we are. We're more than halfway done.
No, I know that, but in terms of, like, Thoughtspeak episodes, because we could still put out episodes after the series ends.
Yeah, and in terms of Thoughtspeak, until one of us, goes into cardiac arrest, we're going to keep trucking along. Anyway, but yeah, I do want to talk about the cover of this book. Weird color scheme. I mean, it's not bad, but strange. It's like a pink and purple, and then some blue.
It just kind of looks like a standard blue sky. I mean, that's what probably makes it unremarkable, actually.
There's purple. The purple makes it not look like a blue sky.
Is that purple? That's no. Yeah. Oh, I'm just in kind of very dim light, and to me it looks white, like white clouds. I thought it was.
There's white clouds too. Maybe we have different books, but mine is purple. Like, there's white clouds and then, like, hardcore purple.
Oh, I don't know. There's like a little bit of purple.
Shine a light. No, there's a lot of purple. You're in complete darkness right now, I assume.
It's not. I don't know. I have a desk lamp.
Turn it on.
It is on.
Okay, something's wrong with your eyes. I'm just letting you know. There's a lot of purple in this. So we go back to I think we praised on the last episode the catchy line at the top, in that it actually had relevance to the book. Unfortunately, we go the opposite direction with this one.
And we're cheesy pun.
Shakespeare, I guess? To morph or not to morph, that is the question?
Absolutely. And I mean, I'll give it to him that it's a relevant question.
If I was a new reader, I'd say to read your book or to not read your book. That's the question.
And the answer is an obvious no. Especially since I've watched Animorphs on TV, and I know that I don't want to get into it this way.
You also have basically like Linda Hamilton-esque sassy Cassie here on the front with a fist. She's ready to kick butt and turn into a yak.
Yeah. Hey, a Cape Buffalo, mother.
It looks like a yak.
Sure. You can't.
They were clever with her hair. It almost looks like her hair is not turning into horns, but just a different hairstyle.
Yeah, a little bit. Yeah.
But yeah, so it's just a cover. It's a cover to a book.
This is not one that a grown man should carry around in public. Again, that's a lot of these book covers are. I'm gonna flag them with that.
Inside cover. I mean, somewhat accurate.
It's kind of a scene from the book, sort of.
Yeah.
Were they
two buffaloes in there?
Well, I guess the controllers that were following them would have been in police uniform. Yeah, you're right. There should be two of them. And if the first one was already out, then the controllers would have scattered by then. So these guys would be hanging out there.
Feeling that all of these humans in this are the same person, just photoshopped.
This is very true. Yeah, you don't get to see any of their faces in any great detail. It's kind of cool to see the blue morphing cube there.
Yeah, we don't see that very often in these covers and inside covers.
No, they should really include more freaking Easter eggs like that, you know?
Well, yeah, I mean, all of this stuff, if it was done like now, and there was effort put into it, there's so many cool things you could do with these covers and inside covers.
Yeah, exactly. That's why the reprints didn't do so well, or a little disappointing.
Yeah. Well, I think I've brought it up before, maybe even this in the same way. But you think of how in like manga, where they get like they're like rewarded for like high sales by being able to do like a color splash page of these characters you know and love. Like, Animorphs really has the ability in these opening things to do, like, really cool illustrations. And we've gotten that with, like, the Hork-Bajir Chronicles. You know, that has really cool sci-fi illustrations on the cover of it. And man, they really missed the mark with these individual books.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, they wisened up and started to kind of try and do scenes from the books, but it's like, because they went with this weird computer rendering sort of look, it comes off as kind of awkward.
Yeah,
I guess. Yeah, but we're talking about buffaloes and Cassie, because as you can tell, this is a Cassie book about her morphing buffaloes. And here's the description. The Yeerks have discovered and repaired a damaged Helmacron ship. They know of its morph-seeking capabilities, and they plan to use the ship to capture the Andalite bandits and to find Elfangor's blue cube, the one that gave the kids the ability to morph. Cassie, the other Animorphs, and Axe are in a pretty bad situation because they can't leave the cube in one place, they can't morph without being discovered, and they have to keep moving. It looks like this may be a battle the Visor can't lose. Quadlipses.
Wow. I want to throw something out there. Obviously, I don't want to get into my review early or anything, but I read this book half yesterday and then half when I got home from work today around 6:30, 7 p.m. And we're recording this at like 10:30 p.m. I couldn't tell you the plot of this book for the most part. I could tell you maybe a really broad, basic plot. But I read this within the last 24 hours, and I don't remember anything from it.
Oh, well, here, allow me to summarize it in 2 sentences. It's a chase movie, basically. The entire book is one long, drawn-out chase scene with a little bit of moral grayness concerning animal sentience and human
but like
intelligence.
weirdly like the whole Buffy human conversation. I've only been purview to that in internet circles and people talking about the Buffy human once I finally figured out what it was. But in the book itself, it's approached so weirdly and like mutedly. Like they discuss it, but they don't have the deep moral conversations that they really struggled with in so many other books. It's just kind of like, man, we probably shouldn't kill the buffalo. Or maybe we should.
No, they're flat out telling her to do it the whole time.
Oh yeah,
Pretty
no, the
much.
rest of them are bloodthirsty. But Cassie's like, I mean, I guess we have to. I don't want to. I'd rather not.
It's a very precarious situation to be in, and I'm actually really glad that I read this one, so I understand the full context of it now. And actually, I think we'll have some interesting chats on it. Maybe, who knows?
Yeah.
So I mean, it started out strong. I'll give you that. Like Cassie's chilling at the barn, doing her thing, and all of a sudden Eric's there, and he's like, "Cassie, you have a mission. take this item and go."
Run!
Basically, it's off to a pretty strong start with Eric appearing as he's off to do, and being like, "Yo, the Yerks are back with the Helmicron technology." That, by the way, that happening like off panel and just being thrown in the thing is like a very obvious just kickstart to this plot idea.
Yeah, we never even. It's funny that's the main push to it. We never see like even a little scene like we normally get of like Visor 3 and some Taxons like fooling around with this tiny technology or like messing with the ship or something. Like that scene I think we would normally get. They don't even care
like
about
if they started at an infiltration mission and they were like scoping out like, "Ooh, what's Visor 3 up to this time? Oh, why does he have the Helmicron ship? Is he gonna try and shrink us again or something?" Like something.
Yeah,
like that.
and then they turn the Helmicron ship on, and it detects the Animorphs, and then they have to get out of there real quick, and that's like the whole first part of the book.
Yeah, it was definitely very strange to the fact that the technology was then tethered to a helicopter, I guess.
Hey, but we do get a fun scene of one of Cassie's parents coming into the barn when Eric's in there. Oh no! Oh wait, he turned into a hologram at the right time. We're good.
Yeah, well, of course. I mean, you gotta. He's overpowered with his hologram abilities.
God forbid Cassie's parents walk in on her talking to a boy in the barn when she's having usually, tons of people over there hanging out in the barn all the time.
Yeah, I guess that's true. I don't know how much the parents really know they're out there, though, because it seems like they're both pretty frequently gone. But I thought it was pretty cool, like
that Cassie has a lax home life, like her parents are absent parents.
They assume she is like 24/7 caring for those animals. Like that's all she does. If her friends come over, they're helping her shovel shit. But I thought the whole concept was cool. Of like, okay, so for some generic plot reason, the Yerks can track you now, and you've got to keep moving. Because you have this MacGuffin item, the box.
The problem with this, though, the concept, I'll agree with you, is cool. But the problem is we've already seen this concept, like, much better done in the first Megamorphs book with the dust cloud that followed them every time they morphed.
Yeah.
That was exciting because it wasn't just morph energy. It was every time they morphed, but they had to morph to get out of these situations. And it became, like, really suspenseful and, like, thrilling in Megamorphs 1. In this, it's like, oh no, this helicopter's in your vicinity. Doesn't know where you are.
No, there's people up there directing all the controllers that are down on the ground. I thought, at the very least, they do a somewhat decent job of, like, keeping the pacing moving. There are points where it drags a little bit where they're out in the fucking woods. But Cassie, tags along with her mom to go to the gardens, because she thinks that's a good idea to go like somewhere public with Yerks chasing them. But pretty quickly into the story, she gets trapped at the gardens and then forces or finds her way into the back of a truck, which I guess she just somehow didn't, notice the giant Cape Buffalo sitting inside. I guess it was one of those trailers that was airtight.
Yeah, there's some weird things like that, but I don't want to derail us from the story. I know you would like to continue on with the plot of the book, which you always are trying to do, but I want to throw one thing out there that this book actually suggests that would have made this book way more interesting. At some point, the book talks about how Visor 3 finding out they have the morphing cube, and there's a couple points in this book where controllers see them with the morphing cube while they're chasing them, right? So,
do they? Yeah, I guess they would have.
Yeah, and Cassie even says at some point, like, wow, we're really lucky that Visitor 3 isn't coming at us with all he has to, right now. Like, I don't even know why, like, they threw it out in the book. But that would have been an incredible book. If it was, like, a normal Animorphs book, and they were just trying to get away until, like, one controller sees them with the morphing cube, and he tells, like, his sub-visitor, and then that sub-visitor tells Visitor 3, and then Visitor 3, like, loses his effing mind, and, like, throws his whole army at them, like, just to get that morphing cube, like, almost breaks the secrecy of the Yeerk invasion in this one moment just to come after them with the morphing cube. That would have been crazy. Like, they could have gone insane with this book.
Now, call me crazy, but what you just described is a very loose interpretation of basically what happens in this book. I mean, he figures out that they have the cube, and he sends all the controllers over.
No, there's some Hork-Bajoos running around in the woods, and some, like, people in jeeps and stuff.
Yeah, they're constantly fighting Hork-Bajir and Texans in this.
I'm talking, like, holy crap, we know where the Animorphs are, they have the morphing cube with them, and we have them on the run. I want every bug fighter in orbit to come down on this area right now. I want every controller to leave their job, to leave what they're doing, their family, whatever they're doing right now, and head into these mountains. Like, that would have been crazy.
Yeah, if they wanted to do, like, a big end of the series event, I guess. But
no,
dude,
I think it could have been right
we'll
on
discuss the shortcomings of what they did here. Trust me.
Continue on. I think they could have done it tastefully.
Okay. There's something that is just, like, super funny to me as I was reading this thing, and I really wanted to bring it up and talk about it, and I hope it becomes a running joke between us.
I don't know if it will if you preface it.
Well, that's what I've been thinking the entire time I read this thing, so I there's no way I can't. But I got it because it's a scene in the book.
It's like bringing somebody to a party because you want them to meet your other friend and you really want them to be friends, and it's never going to happen because you set it up weirdly.
Yes, let's try and do that too sometime. I got this guy. So yeah, like I said, they're running around the gardens, and Cassie lets this Cape Buffalo out, and it's causing all this chaos. She also acquires it, by the way, and it it gets the morphing power from the cube, which is kind of a cool concept that we'll probably dive into a little bit too. But there's a point where it's rampaging around, and then just kind of out of nowhere, it struck me. Okay, I'm gonna just read you two short little things here.
Okay.
I turned and saw the Cape Buffalo I'd acquired pounding out of the truck, charging people with its horns and growing more agitated when it missed them. Then it whirled and stampeded straight for Chapman. Up to this point in the story and in this chapter, there was no mention of Chapman at all. And it's like, when I was reading this, it just came out of nowhere. And I was like, oh, fuck, Chapman was there? Oh, okay. And
suddenly Chapman.
Yeah. And then immediately I was like, oh my God, they could do this in, like, every book. If like, they were on some mission somewhere, like on an alien planet or whatever, and, some alien shot a projectile at them, and they deflected it back, and then suddenly it headed straight for Chapman. Like, it's just out of nowhere.
No, you know how, knowing the writing style of these books, you know how they would do it? They would be, like, in Antarctica or something on a mission, and they'd be like, oh, we're surrounded by controllers. This is a really tough situation. I don't know how we're going to get out of it. And it's made even more awkward by the fact that our assistant principal is here.
Yeah. I know. Exactly. That's what I'm saying, really. That's the joke, is that, yeah, suddenly Chapman. And then it headed straight for Chapman.
Okay, you're right. That's a good joke.
Classic good thing. It just was like out of nowhere, but it becomes relevant to the story.
Listeners, if you really appreciate everything we do here, we need you to get the hashtag suddenly Chapman trending.
I like headed straight for Chapman, because that's literally what it said. Straight for Chapman.
Real quick, so I think we do need to stop the episode for a second, and not really, don't stop your recording. But we need to pause for a moment, talking about the story,
okay,
and address the fact that have we have we ever seen anything in the books? Because this is what fans fight about with this book. Have we ever seen anything in the books to say that animals can't acquire the morphing power?
No, there's never been. That's the thing. There's never been an established biology that the cube works for. We know that it works for andalites. We know that it works for humans. Have we seen anything else morph besides this animal? No. Right?
I think
other than other alien species that already had the ability, right?
Yeah, I think the only issues I have with this, because I think the concept in this book is interesting and is cool in a couple ways, but the only two issues I have with it happening in this book that kind of falls apart is that everything we know about morphine, you really need to focus on what you're doing. So you need to be thinking, like you need to be able to form thoughts, like sentient thoughts about what you're doing when morphing, because you need to picture, you need to have, you yourself need to know that you're trying to do this specific thing while picturing this thing and making it happen. It's like how you morph. And then also, you need to be able to, again, focus and know what you're doing when you acquire something. So it's not just morphing, but also to acquire something, you have to focus on it, focus on what it is, what you're trying to do, that you're acquiring the DNA. Like, that's how you acquire DNA. And we don't see either of those two things from the buffalo here, as well as the after effects that we know of morphine, which are, like putting a calming effect on whatever you're acquiring and things like that.
I'll give you that. It would have been more interesting if they'd have probably chosen a slightly more intelligent animal. How about that?
Yeah, I could see
like
that.
An elephant or, even a pig. Pig would have been great.
They could redo this book with a ton of animals. Either way, I'd love to see them all explode at the end. So good times.
Oh man. So okay, I dog-eared that page and the next page because there was another thing. Okay, at this point in the story, when I was reading it, I didn't know Chapman was relevant. So I just found every reference to him extremely random. Because on the next page, it says Chapman down and out. and again, I was like, "Oh my god, those are straight for Chapman," and then Chapman down and out.
That could be like a spin-off like TV series. Chapman down and out.
Because he's always getting his ass kicked. Yeah.
Well, no, it'd be about Chapman like divorcing his wife and like only seeing his daughter on the weekends and like him trying to pick himself back up. It'd be like a cheesy sitcom.
Oh, there you go. But he's still a yerk trying to take over the world.
Yeah, that's the hook.
That'd be cool.
Call me NBC.
So, like I said, this book is like a whole chase scene, just like spread out, and they take breaks. Because Cassie manages to stampede her way out of the situation, and this is the weird part where she discovers the buffalo. And is like, what the hell? And Tobias is also there. He comes in because he's been doing air surveillance this whole time. And he's also the original witness to it. So he's going to go tell the team, before Cassie gets a chance to really break it to him.
This first encounter, I think, actually works. It actually sells you on the fact that this non-sentient creature, like, having the morphine ability and not knowing what's going on as it changes horrifyingly into a human, like, this scene I think works and actually sets up the concept really well that this is a horrible thing that's happened to this buffalo who didn't choose to have it happen to it.
Sure, yeah.
This is messed up and it's horrifying. If this were a scene in the movie, this would be like The Fly. This would be some David Lynch stuff.
Dude, yeah, exactly. And you know what? It's this concept that really made me interested, but it also made me wonder, like, of all the cool crap they could do if they ever decided to revisit the idea of forcing things, animals or people, to morph into other things. Like, if they had done some kind of concept with that, that'd have been really potentially dark.
If the Yerks had not, like, acquired the morphine technology, but had found a way to weaponize it, so that they could, like people running away from them, like, they could shoot it with a ray that forced them to start morphing, and they, like, fell because their bones are breaking, and changing and stuff. Oh man, that'd be crazy.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. Really straddling the line between like some kind of transformation fetish and some messed up shit.
That's the Animorphs I know and love.
Yeah, right. Our fan base. So, yeah, this is the situation that the book immediately sets up and it takes off with as Cassie and the rest of the team get together, and everyone immediately is like, "Holy crap! This is like one of the worst things we've done. This thing should not exist." And Axe is like, if that buffalo gets into the hands of the Yeerks, well, he saw you morph, and they could potentially, figure us out that way. There's a lot of ways this thing could go wrong, really. They should be way more concerned with it than they are.
Yeah, it really is one of the moments, like you said, like, this is one of the worst things we've ever done. And they don't address that more than just saying that, and then they're just gung-ho to kill it.
Well, I don't know. I feel like they... Do you think... Here's the thing. Do you think that they genuinely believe, like, this was an accident? They know Cassie was involved, but do they believe it was an accident? Or do they believe, like, oh, of course, typical Cassie, effing up again, made a mistake, and now...
Going and giving more... Oh, Cassie's giving morphin power to animals again.
Well, I mean, do you think they blame her for this? Or do you think they're a little bit more sympathetic, but they want her to take care of it? It's very clear the whole time they're like, look, this is on you. Like, you clearly caused this, so you have to deal with it.
I don't think they blame her, though. I think this is so random and so inconvenient for them.
And disturbing.
That it's not like, oh, there's no way. Like, we know Cassie. She wouldn't have done this on purpose. Like, we don't even blame her for this. This is just a bad luck situation that we have to take care of now. So I don't think they blame her. And I will say this. We've ragged on Cassie a lot in the past. I don't think she's particularly bad written in this book. I think she's written fairly straightforward and non-annoyingly. Yeah. For a book that could have been really annoying for her, I think this is fine. Just throwing that out there.
You're like that meme of that little cartoon dog sitting in the room on fire. This is fine. Except your room is like full of Cassies and buffaloes. This is fine.
Buffy humans. This is okay. This is my ideal Animorphs.
Exactly. So the thing that is kind of dumb about this plot, though, is that it all amounts to their idea of like, okay, we have to run from the Yeerks long enough to get to the water, because we're going to use the old drop a whale on our problem solution and just be done with this.
Their solution for everything is morph to dolphin. Doesn't matter where they are, what they're doing, morph to dolphin.
Yeah, pretty much. And, Cassie, of course, is like, well, I guess I'll be the anvil and I'll fall. And, this is when their little powwow gets broken up by a little action. Some controllers arrive on the scene, and Texans and Hork-Bajir are there, and they're fighting, and things are actually looking kind of bad, as they tend to do. And this is when the buffalo comes in and, rampages around and really sort of saves them.
Yeah, this is the first big fight where it saves them, but after this, you can kind of summarize the action in the sense that it's like, oh no, we're stuck in a situation we can't get out of, and then the buffalo comes and helps them. Oh no, we lost the buffalo. Buffalo comes and saves them.
That's true. He was a very useful buffalo, by the way. Oh my God, we're going to talk about this. This is when they all see it more for the first time, and it's like really messed up, and they get a true sense of how disturbing it is. This is when there's a great little scene where Cassie sets the box down because they're in a big fight, and she's a wolf currently. And she sets the box down to do some attacking, and then quickly goes back to it, and nothing bad happens. But Jake scolds her.
I loved this. This was like the most realistic thing in the book. The fact that she sets down the most powerful thing in their quadrant of the galaxy right now, and goes to help the fight, and the Jake realizes, and then yells at her, even though he's in love with her at this point. He can't help but yell at her for this incredibly dumb mistake, which is you can relate to it. Like, yeah, I mean, I wanted to help my friends so they didn't die. But no, there's more important things than that. Like not letting the Yeerks get this morphing cube. You can't just hide it in a bush. I liked that. That was really good.
Sure. I mean, yeah, she should have totally let her team members be eviscerated.
Yeah.
Because she didn't help. There's a dumb little scene where they have to... Because it's this night, or this chase has lasted so long, it's now nighttime. But they have to cross a road, and there's all these controllers there, and they're like, we're going to throw the cube across. And they morph flies to cross the road, and Marco stays behind to throw the cube. And it's like all going, kind of according to plan, which is weird. And this is when the buffalo shows up again. And then the Yeerks, freak out thinking it's an Andalite bandit. And Visitor 3 shows up like almost immediately on the spot, and starts to interrogate the buffalo as he does. And this is what was kind of cool, I thought, at least for a minute here. The buffalo somehow manages to acquire Visitor 3. I guess because he's like jabbing him. I think he's jabbing him in the wound because they wounded him.
Yeah. And, this is weird. So he acquires Visitor 3 and then is able to morph into him without, like, anyone noticing. Well, it says the controllers are watching, but Visitor 3 isn't paying attention. I guess the controllers are, like, too scared to figure it out, like, to attack or do anything or even mention it to Visitor 3 while he's turned away looking at something else. And then when he turns back around, it's like all of the controllers became, like, the dumbest people who've ever existed, because now they can't tell which one's the real Visitor 3.
Well, no, you gotta think about it this way. I don't think the other controllers that were there could tell that it was a copy of Visitor 3. Remember, they think this is an Andalite bandit. They thought it was demorphing.
No, it says specifically in the book that the controllers don't fire on it because they are scared to get scolded by Visitor 3 in case it's him. Like, they literally think it's Visitor 3.
I think they just meant that first of all, the Animorphs at some point discussed that they can't, the Yeerks won't kill the buffalo because they think it's an Andalite bandit. They'll have to capture it alive and bring it in because they don't want to kill a viable Andalite host body. So the situation is that already that they're just gonna capture it alive.
There's more to it, but keep going.
That was it. I don't know. We were talking about how it's a copy of Visitor 3. Oh, sure.
Yeah, keep on the story.
Yeah, where the right, yeah. So the buffalo as Visitor 3 managed to help out again, and the team runs off, and some of the guys go ahead, and Cassie volunteers to stay behind as usual. A lot of repeat actions in this book, I feel like. Buffalo comes back, and they manage to demorph and get back to their original forms, and Cassie goes buffalo again, just in time for the Visitor and their army to come back. Hang on, I'm browsing through my notes furiously.
Well, I'm browsing through the books. I think I just proved you wrong. Here we go. You ready for this? You ready for me to bring the book against you as a weapon?
No, okay, go.
Okay, I'm going to read a little excerpt real quick. Get him, Visitor 3 commanded, pointing imperiously at the buffalo and Andalite morph. The buffalo pointed back, mimicking. The Hork-Bajir controllers hesitated, torn between the two. Now, I just read before this, too. These Hork-Bajir controllers have been watching the whole time. All Visitor 3 did was turn away to scold some other Hork-Bajirs and then turn back. That's all that's happened. All the other ones are forming a circle and have been watching the buffalo morph into Visitor 3 and then, do all the stuff. So, okay.
Okay, yeah, I get you.
The Hork-Bajir controllers hesitated, torn between the two. Visitor 3's Andalite tail came up. The buffalo Andalites did too. Flap! Visitor 3's tail lopped off one of the buffalo's Andalite's arms. The Hork-Bajir and human controllers milled in helpless confusion, not daring to attack the wrong Visitor. They don't know which one is which at this point.
Okay, you know what that sounds like? A little piece of really bad segue writing just to move the thing along.
Well, no, I honestly think they were trying to do like the classic comedy trope of like when someone clones somebody else or turns into a copy of them.
Well, I can't tell which one was which.
Yeah, you got the gun pointed at one, you're going between them. Except at this point, the people who are trying to decide this have been watching the whole time.
Yeah, right. So it really doesn't work in any scope of that cliche. Yeah, it's an awkward piece for sure. There's a gruesome scene, however. Visor 3 gets another cool morph that doesn't get named. It's like this weird tentacle shooting acid thing.
Oh,
that's very generic.
Right now.
That's very generic.
The baklava. You know, that's all they name them.
Baklava?
They just put a... No, they name them like 2 letters and then an apostrophe and then lek or like L-E-K. Like that's how they always name them. All his
I think
morphs.
it would be something quick and snappy like the Vork.
The Vork.
I don't know. It's tentacly, it's acidy, and it frightens the pee out of Cassie to the point where she jumps off a cliff.
They overuse tentacles with his morphs too. Like he always has tentacles. Whatever.
He's got a fetish, dude. It's all cats and tentacles up in his bedroom. You gotta see it. It's crazy.
He's got the entire Yerk Empire scientists working on cats with tentacles.
Exactly. He's making cats with like cats that have the standard 4 appendages, but also tentacles coming out of their like shoulders. He's got cats that have their 4 appendages replaced by tentacles. He's got
guys. I don't want to overhype this, but this is the best thing we've ever worked on. Keep doing it. You guys are doing a great job. I don't say this to my troops very often, but you guys are the head of the Yerk Empire. Just throwing it out there.
Visor 3's cat experiments.
Cat tentacle experiments.
Oh, that's
somebody's been reading my fan fiction.
Oh boy, that's a hard segue. That's like falling off a cliff.
Whoa.
I don't know. It's kind of gruesome. Like the descriptions, of all the bones breaking and whatnots. But and Cassie pulls a classic, morph to good health, before death sets in, and the buffalo somehow is able to copy her.
Well, yeah, the buffalo's like not as hurt as her for some reason. They say it's a short cliff. They don't say it's like a big one, but still, like she's like really messed up, and the buffalo's like, eh.
No, he was still in pain. I think it was implied that it would have died if left after a couple hours. I don't know if the Yerks would have, taken it and resuscitated her. It still would have been bad either way. So really, I think Cassie did the right thing in kind of like showing it how to morph, to heal yourself. Though I thought that wasn't the way it worked, like because that's his original body got injured.
It doesn't matter. This is something that we fought over before.
I always
it doesn't
forget.
matter. All you're doing with morphine.
There are no rules.
No, you're taking your whatever the technology is, floating in Z space or whatever it is.
The matter.
It's
mass.
it's taking your DNA from the point of morphine or acquiring. So if your original body, it's the DNA from the last point of when you started the morph, and what you're morphing to, which is the DNA at the time you acquired the animal. So
yeah, the DNA is like the blueprint.
Yeah, that's all it is. So no matter what, whether you're going from original morph to morph or morph to original morph, it's just going off the blueprint. It doesn't matter what injuries you have, unless you are somehow transported back to the time of the dinosaurs, and then other rules apply.
Right. I'll remember that for when I attack a submarine. And then there's like...
It may be a fever dream. You don't know.
Right. So, Cassie and the Buffalo Human once again meet up with the crew, and there's kind of a cool sort of creepy scene where they're sitting around by like a campfire just shit talking this poor creature as it's like dumb-eyed human, chewing on grass, sitting next to it. Like, this part I thought in particular was pretty cinematic. I imagine it kind of cool. But, they're just talking about how, oh my God, I can't believe this thing's still alive. We should take it out back and shoot it right now.
and then the entire book stops and makes you focus on this ant that crawls along the blue box. Make sure it's focused on that happening, and then goes back to the story.
Okay, they do bring it up. They do mention an ant, but I didn't think it was as glaring as you did. There's like one little paragraph where Cassie says, and then I flicked an ant off the box, and it, landed on my leg. But I kept waiting for, the Buffy human to, like, stand up and actually address the group as, like, I don't know what he'd say. Family.
I am Buffa human. I have heard your words.
I am displeased with your decisions.
No, it just gives, like, in very simple speech, it gives, like, the reasons it should exist to make them all feel bad about talking bad. That's how it happened in a movie. It would be like, I've heard your words, and they have hurt me. Yeah. I am not much different than you. Look at yourselves.
Through your actions, I have learned to feel.
Is it me who is the wildebeest? I say nay. It is you.
Am I the monster, or is it you? Yeah.
'Twas beauty killed the beast.
Oh my God, you took it one step too far. So again, after they're regrouping, the team runs off again to fulfill their part of the mission, which is like, go ahead of Cassie and the buffalo. I think really they're like, keep giving her opportunities to kill it, I think, is what they're doing.
If we keep putting Cassie is so much of a fuck up. If we just keep putting her in the Buffy human,
one of them's going to die.
She will eventually get it killed. And if not, it could be a new Animorph. It can't be any more worthless than she is.
It's got to be at least as useful as Axe. I don't know.
Yeah, this is basically a trial period to see if Cassie's going to get knocked off the island.
We'll still crash at your barn and stuff, Cassie, but you're off the team.
Which will make a lot more sense because a buffalo would live in a barn. Like,
I thought you'd be all about this ant morph, though. The scene.
I was so bored at this point.
I guess, I don't know. I tend to read these things from a very I take it way too serious. Maybe. I don't know. Or maybe I take it exactly the right amount of serious.
I am Mr. Tangent. All right? I take these books dead serious. But when a book like this is just, like, waning on and not doing anything special, and I'm sorry, you lose me 3/4 of the way through the book when you introduce cool ant Cassie.
Well, you now know that 2 Earth animals have both acquired and used morph technology. So there you go. You got that knowledge out of this. So suck it.
I mean, I do like the fact that the ant starts morphing into Cassie, and then it gets the human brain.
Yeah, and it doesn't know what to do with it.
Screaming in terror because of individualism. Like, I feel like this is some kind of
some kind of undertone,
political metaphor for China or something. I don't know what it's trying to say.
I think it's just trying to say that having way too much brain power for something that's not used to having a free will, or as she even put it, as a soul. You can't handle it. That should be America's slogan. Well, anyway, there's a cool, Cassie Ant attack subplot that lasts all a page. And
it could have been. So, I think that when they introduced the Buffy human morphing to human for the first time, I think that scene is written actually pretty terrifying. This scene was more silly than anything else.
I don't know.
Pincers are coming out.
Well, okay. I will say that this is a little bit different in that this was like more of an unstable morph. And so not only was it an ant that's turning into Cassie, but it was like doing it spontaneously, like more so than it usually is, and fluctuating back and forth.
Yeah, while they were fighting, it was morphing like the whole time, which is kind of cool.
So, it was extra disturbing. Like it was probably... I'm willing to say that when they concepted this book and they were like, okay, well, let's do a book where, an animal gets the ability to morph from accidentally touching the cube.
I'm going to bring this up. More in my review, but I think that's exactly what this happened, is that the outline for this book was pretty good. Like the concepts, the ideas, the pacing was probably really cool. The execution just really, really suffered.
It would have been a book that would have probably benefited from being a little bit more short form in its storytelling than being so like... Because, you're with Cassie like throughout the whole story. There's no passage of times. You know what I mean?
Yeah, yeah.
There's no... The next day or the next week, we all met up at blah, blah, blah. So, yeah, and, it just keeps going right into the finale because... The last deed of this good buffalo is to save Cassie from this evil, gross Aunt Cassie, which after he gores it through the stomach, Cassie goes over and stomps it to death just to make sure it's extra dead. Dead times 3. And this is when the helicopter just randomly appears, shoots a laser beam, and the cow just explodes. I imagined it just because it's right after she's like, thank you, kind buffalo, for saving me. She morphs into a bird.
It actually says, I'm not going to read an excerpt, but it actually says in the book that the buffalo finally felt peace with what it was and what it was doing. It seemed to finally calm down, and it smiled at her with its eyes
as she's flying. As she's ascending to heaven, the cow stays. I keep calling it a cow, but it's a cow. The buffalo is staring up at her with adoring eyes, and then
buffalo
just
is
boom,
an African cow.
blows up.
But no, that's 100% something that happened in a comedy movie. Like a Harold and Kumar.
It really was. And honestly, I didn't see it coming. I was like, how are they going to get rid of this thing?
Oh, they're just going to blow it the fuck up.
Yeah, right? Just no clear-cut resolution to the problem or anything like that. It's okay, readers, this is the point where we got to wrap this subplot up. We don't have a message for you.
We're just going to get rid of it. It's crazy that they went this route. They had to have been laughing when they did this because there are so many other ways they could have done this easily within the confines of the book. They have gotten in so many fights with Hork-Bajir. All they had to do was have the buffalo actually get wounded where it's not morphing, and she's on the... Picture this. Bunch of dead carcasses of Hork-Bajir around them. Cassie is really hurt, and so she's desperately trying to get out of her morph, and then she finally does, and she has this moment of relief that she didn't die, and then she looks over and she's like, oh crap, the buffalo's really hurt too, and she's pleading with it, crying and pleading with it to try to morph because she doesn't want it to die, even though she knows it has to die and this is her mistake. She's pleading with it, trying to get it to understand how to morph out of this. And it's just trying, but failing, and it's bleeding too fast. And she tries to put her wildlife rehabilitation skills into effect and stop the bleeding, but she can't. And she's just crying over this buffalo and then dies. Boom. That would have been a scene.
Hi, that might have been a little over the top. They'd have to rewrite the whole thing to really sell that, but yeah.
Oh no, instead we're going to shoot it with a laser out of a helicopter and blow it up.
A freaking laser beam. Yeah, they Drake on it and boom. It's gone. And then Cassie's like, okay, well that's done.
Why did they even do that? The Yerk's perspective, they're just oh shit, there's the buffalo, shoot it!
I know, it made no sense. I will say though that she was very torn up about it for a little bit. So it was I felt a lot of things there. Very conflicted, but she makes it.
Just laugh.
So she flies into the air and she does the whole
the greatest of ease.
The what?
flies into the air with the greatest of ease.
Yeah. And so how many times... We have to have a count of how many times they've done this. The drop from the sky really fast.
Well, they've never done it. I don't think they've ever done it as a weapon. Have they? Well, no, they have once. They have once before done this.
Dropped so many times. Really, they overuse that, and they overuse
I was
Eric.
waiting for the... Well, okay, so it was super weird. They try to do this, like, what's their plan writing style, where they keep bringing up the anvil and calling it the anvil, and I was, like, halfway through this, and I was like, okay, did they actually... I had to go back to when Marco told them about the Roadrunner Coyote bit.
Yeah.
I had to go back and see if he had actually, like, found an anvil on the ground. Like, because they kept referring to the anvil.
No.
And I actually reread that whole part, trying to figure out if I had missed something.
No, it was very confusingly worded, yeah. Because they never explicitly say, okay, Cassie's going to morph to whale and do the whole dropping thing again.
Yeah. And then I kept waiting for the Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy reference with her dropping as a whale.
Well, that's never going to come. For some reason, I don't think Michael Grant read that one.
It's the only sci-fi book he didn't read.
The next time we interview him, that's what I'm going to ask. So, what other sci-fi are you into? So the twist, though, for this big finale is that their plan actually goes awry and, like, would have straight up failed. But a wayward seagull happens to get sucked into the helicopter's thing and crashes it anyway.
This is like the lasering the buffalo. Like, there's other ways you could have done this that would have been fine. You didn't have to bring a not only is it bringing a random seagull to save the day, which is just unfulfilling and completely random, but also, like, they referenced earlier, like, at the beginning of the scene, they're like, oh, somebody could morph to seagull and just blow up the engine. And then that just happens randomly? Like, I was waiting for the Elemis.
No, you're right. You're right. They did specifically mention birds get sucked into propellers all the time.
I was waiting for another twist that said, like, a group of Andalites has been, like, following them and helping them out whenever they can, and, like, this is that.
Oh, that's the plot of the next book.
Yeah, or the Elemis was... Well, spoilers. I've never read the next book. Or like the Elemis is going to come out and be like, I sent that seagull as part of my chess game. Crack.
Right. Yeah. So, and then, okay. So, yeah, they do that, and then they really just kind of swim away, you know? And that's the end. And really the biggest problem is that they started these interesting kind of concept ideas, and then they just completely hit the brakes and, like, brick-walled, okay, we're done with these ideas. Boom.
Yeah.
Wrap up.
That's how it is.
That is literally the whole book, The Hidden.
We don't even get an ending scene. There's no ending scene.
No, the ending scene is Cassie waking up after hitting the water and her friends being like, oh, hey, you demorphed. That's taken care of. Yeah, hey, we're good. Let's swim home.
The sharks didn't come. Marco's fine. You guys want to go get some, like, drinks or something?
You guys want to go to the sharing? Sharing? Anybody? Yeah, and you know that's the book. Oh boy, I mean, what are you thinking on reviews there, feller?
You're up first this time.
Me, okay. Well, I can say that I had some fun reading it. It was one that kept me guessing how it was gonna wind up, you know, dealing with some of the problems. We discussed a lot of the problems with just the story in general. The fact that, you know, it seems like they're asking really, really deep questions, bringing up morality and things like that concerning, you know, the buffalo, just having access to, like, a human body and mind. And what it means to be human again. It's very, very deep stuff for children's literature, let me tell you. And unfortunately, it doesn't get the real depth that it deserves, I feel. I guess that's kind of on our part as nerds and fans to dive into it and flesh it out a little bit. But as far as this thing goes, you know, they offer some interesting ideas that never really pan out in the end. And I don't think they're going to affect the overall chronology of the series. I don't think we're going to see any more morphing animals and you know, a use of that, the technology in that kind of way. The Helmicron thing, it seemed like a completely wasted concept because not only did it happen off panel or off screen or off page, but they seriously only had one piece of the Helmicron technology that was equipped in their helicopter, and they couldn't copy it and make study the technology a little, reproduce it, anything like that. It was just a completely fabricated plot of the week sort of reason for them to run around. And the Buffy human, yeah, like I've said, it just felt like it went nowhere. But I mean, I had a little bit of fun. Not an overall important or even very good book. I think I know you're going to give it a 1. I know you're going to give it a 1. But the little glimmers and shines that it had, I think make it at least worthy of a 2. So I'm going to give it 2 straight for Chapman's.
Yeah, I think you don't know what I'm going to say. You don't know my score.
I'm pretty sure you're going to say this book is garbage. Don't read it. It gets a 1. F you on
No, this book is garbage, but I'll gladly say that. But the main part of the review, I can keep this completely short. My thoughts on this book were there are some good concepts. There are some good points around it. Everything in this book should have been interesting. And everything in this book we've seen done before, almost specifically in some places, in a better way. In multiple books, you could break this book apart and break it into this Megamorphs book, or this plot from this, or this, that, or this giant whale falling. Like, all of that was done before and written better. I do give this book props for its concepts. I give it props for writing Cassie in a totally okay way. It's not annoying. I think parts of it, do move along better than the other parts, but for the most part, I was just bored in this book. And I like these books. I like the whole series. Even some of the books that some of the people absolutely hate, I've gotten something interesting out of, or have been able to, think about it in an interesting way. I think this one's just filler. Doesn't really do anything for me. Uninteresting plot. But I'm not giving it a 1. I think it does have some good concepts. I agree with you. I think a 2 is dead on. So I'm going to give this 2 out of 5. What, have you never heard of Douglas Adams?
Oh, okay. Well, cool.
Surprise, surprise. We don't land on the same review score very often. Even when we both really like something, we end up giving it one of us gives it a 4 and the other one gives it a 5. Yeah,
sometimes I think we're more aligned than we think we are. I'm not sure.
Hey, Mitch, more unites us than separates us.
Well, that is definitely true, because we got a lot going for us. Next time we're talking book 40, The Other, and I can't honestly say if I've read this one or not. The cover's got Marco turning into a bee.
I was actually more interested in the excerpt from it in this book than the entire book I was reading. It looks like it starts out with kind of a Sasquatch Andalite in the woods point of view, which is kind of cool. So, yeah, I'm looking forward to it.
Oh, well, cool. Yeah, as always. That's our review of The Hidden. Woo, go us! So, if you want to find out more about us and the show, you can check out our website.
Do you want me to do this part?
Well, if you want, whatever.
You can check out our website at thoughtspeakcast.com. You can also email us at thoughtspeakcast@gmail.com. Check out our Twitter and our Facebook. We're pretty active on the Facebook, and I'm going to get that Twitter back up to speed because I like talking to you guys on there. It's a good time generally. As we mentioned at the beginning of the show, check us out on Patreon, which is Thoughtspeakcast at patreon.com. Is it? No, that's not right.
What? That's patreon.com/Thoughtspeak. Wow.
Patreon.com/Thoughtspeak, where you can donate to the show, and that really helps us out. It's incredibly appreciated and helps us bring back some of the money we spend on the show and audio equipment and server costs and all that. As well as, check us out on Reddit. We're on our Animorphs quite a bit. talking to people on there.
Are we? Because I don't think anybody's. Well, I mean, I lurk, but nobody's, as far as I know, mentioned Thoughtspeak on our Animorphs or even posted our episodes to it. But
I talk to people on there, not just about our episodes, but I talk to people about Animorphs on there, and I like the community for the most part.
No, I don't see anybody to mention us. Or at least post our episodes.
I didn't say anything about us. I said I talked to people about Animorphs on there.
Hey, you want to be the ultimate Thoughtspeak fan? Go to reddit.com/r/Animorphs and post Thoughtspeak episode every week. Or every time we post one.
We would give you a shout out.
You'd be the ultimate fan.
Also,
get to it, Craven Ergeist.
Also, incredibly important to us. If you listen to this on iTunes or just on whatever iTunes or whatever podcast app you listen to this on, throw us a rating. A 5-star rating is obviously incredibly helpful to us, but just leave a review for us. It helps get the word out about the podcast. And I'm now getting into the world of other podcast apps because I moved over to an Android, so I don't use iTunes on there. So it's cool to see the rating systems of other podcast apps and which ones work better, and it's cool seeing our reviews on these other ones. It's pretty neat.
Oh, absolutely, yeah. I'd love a good review. It feels like it's been quite a while since our last review on iTunes, but what do I know if people use iTunes or not? So anyway, we hope to be back real soon with our next episode and keep chugging along as we do and bringing our thought speaks to you. Hey, look at that. I'm a poet.
I mean, we really are in the final run. I mean, this is book 39 and we're about to hit 40 and this, another 12.
Yeah, we're down to 12
books.
or 13, something like that.
12 normal books and a Limus Chronicles.
Yeah. Ooh, we've got some good stuff to look forward to, though.
Are we going to do the Alternamorphs? We never really talked about that.
I guess we could. I've never read them, so it might be interesting.
I've read one of them, and I can't remember if...
How could we not do an episode on them? But I think there's only 2, so we'll probably do 2 of them as one episode.
Yeah, they're 2 and they're short, so...
Cool. Well, we'll hash that one out later.
And then we'll, of course, do Vegemorphs.
Oh, God, no. So, anyway, I've been your host, Mitchell.
I've been Coleman.
And we'll Thoughtspeak at you next time, folks. Thanks for listening.
Have a good one.